Ask someone if they're happy. Watch what happens. They pause. They think. They construct an answer, usually based on whether their life looks like it should be happy. That's the problem. Most people don't report their happiness. They report their theory of their happiness, and the two are often very different. I want to tell you about a man I'll call Robert, 52. Nobody would have called him unhappy, even-tempered, well-liked, professional in every situation. But something was finding him anyway. A free-floating anger in traffic, in meetings over minor errors, in conversations with his wife about nothing important. One evening, he snapped at his 12-year-old over a backpack left on the stairs. And he saw the look on her face, not anger back, wariness. She had learned to watch for this. He sat in his car in the driveway afterward and felt the full, honest weight of where he actually was. Here's what Robert discovered when he finally got quiet. The anger wasn't anger. It was grief. He'd spent 20 years building a career he never consciously chose. Good work, just not his. His emotional baseline had been low for years, and he'd normalized it, called it his personality. It wasn't his personality. It was a life misaligned with who he was, showing up as emotion. This is the second dimension of your inner life, happiness and well-being. And I describe it as the actual weather of your inner life, not the forecast. The forecast is what you'd predict based on your circumstances. The weather is what's actually happening inside you, today, right now. This dimension measures the weather. Let me define it precisely. It's built on decades of research into what's called chronic happiness, the stable, characteristic emotional tone of your life. Not a mood, not a good day or a bad day, the baseline you return to. Some people carry a high baseline, regardless of what happens to them. Others carry a low one, even when everything's going well. Like Robert. And here's the finding that changes everything. The decisive factor isn't what happens to you. It's whether you're living in alignment with your own authentic values and how accurately you read your own emotions. Both of those are exactly what this practice builds. The assessment measures 3 things here. The first is happiness intensity. When you feel good, how good actually? Not performed, not posted, felt. The second is emotional time distribution. This one's the most honest number in the whole dimension. What percentage of your time do you actually spend in positive states versus negative ones? Not your best moment, not your worst. The distribution across an ordinary week. The third is life satisfaction. Your felt sense that your life overall is good. Intensity, distribution, satisfaction. That's the weather. Now here's the reframe, and it's the whole thing. A high baseline is not your life becoming a series of peak experiences. That's not what happy people have. What they have is a better ordinary. The baseline between the highs and lows is lighter, more spacious. Tuesday feels like a life being genuinely lived, instead of a series of obligations being fulfilled. That's the target. Not more peaks, a better Tuesday. So how do you know when you have it? Here's the recognition. You have it when the quality of ordinary days improves. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because the background hum shifted. From low-grade tension to something lighter. Nothing changed on paper. Everything changed in the texture. You have it when joy stops being an occasional visitor and starts being a baseline. Not manic positivity. I want to be clear about that. When genuine grief comes, you still feel it genuinely. When fear comes, you feel it. When anger comes, like Robert's, you feel it. And you listen to it. because it's telling you something true. This isn't about suppressing the hard emotions. It's about what you return to between them. And that return point rises. You have it when your positive emotional time percentage climbs, when more of your hours are spent in states that feel like yours. That's measurable. You can watch that number move. And here's the mechanism. The baseline rises as your life increasingly reflects your authentic values instead of borrowed ones. That's the lever. Every time you live one more piece of your actual life instead of the performed version, the weather improves a little. It's not a mood trick, it's alignment showing up as emotion. There's a second lever too, and it's quieter. Just naming your actual emotional state honestly, instead of the state that would be most acceptable, starts closing the gap between what you feel and what you'll admit you feel. That gap, when it's wide, is exhausting. Closing it is a relief you can measure. Here's what low well-being actually is, so you know the stakes. It's not sadness necessarily. Often it's flatness, a chronic low-grade tension underneath everything, the specific deadness of going through the motions of a life you didn't fully choose. You can have every box checked and still carry that. In fact, that's the most common version. That was Robert, successful, and quietly grieving a life that was never his. Now let me tell you why most people can't read this dimension in themselves. Because they've been performing their emotions for so long that they've lost contact with the real ones. Think about the last time someone asked how you were. You said, fine, or busy, or good, you? And maybe none of that was true. That's a small thing once, but do it 10,000 times over years and something happens. The gap between what you actually feel and what you say you feel grows so wide that you genuinely can't find the real feeling underneath the performance. You've stopped accessing it for so long that it's become inaccessible on demand. This is the quiet tragedy of a low well-being score. It's not just that you feel bad, it's that you've lost the ability to even locate how you actually feel. And here's why the measuring works. Every time you name your true state honestly, even just to yourself, even just as a number on a slider each morning, you're doing the opposite of the 10,000 fines. You're practicing authenticity in the one place it always starts, telling yourself the truth about your own weather. That daily honesty, repeated, is what closes the gap. And as the gap closes, the real feelings come back online, including the good ones you'd stopped being able to feel. Raise this dimension and the deadness lifts. Ordinary aliveness returns. Not fireworks, just a Tuesday that feels like yours. But you can't raise what you won't measure. And you can't measure the weather by guessing at the forecast. You need the actual number. Take the free assessment at consciousnesstrack.app/quiz. 5 minutes, no email required, completely free. It maps exactly where you are across all 5 dimensions of your inner life, including the real weather of this one. I'm Candace. I'll see you in the next one.